Nice
All right.
T-shirt.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I hear they can fetch upwards of $500.
I saw that. Who would have thought when the original one was picked up at the Walmart store?
You're listening to 515, the Ultra Podcast, the show that invites you into the lives of people who make up the Ultra family. Here's your host for these conversations, Larry Ryan.
Thanks, MJ. Today's show truly does invite you into the life of one of the most respected 515 athletes out there. The man with the smile and the man with the plan. He's from Space City, and some call him Mando, Armando Armellini. This Ohana guest has competed at numerous Ironman events, the Epic 5, and 7 Ultraman events since 2016, including 4 consecutive events in 2022. So obviously this is someone who has figured out how to live Aloha, Ohana, and Kokua. And those that have been listening this season know that Shane Duffy was the first athlete to complete all 4 of the Ultraman branded events in 1 year, but it was in part due to the encouragement and the advice received from today's guest. He is what I call the architect of El Plan, joining me from his home in Spacetown, that's Houston, Texas. It's Armando Armellini. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Larry. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's a pleasure to get to see your face again after meeting in Arizona this year.
Yes, same here. It was really nice to get to meet you there in person. And well, I want to say thank you as well for the opportunity to have me here in the show, and also say thank you for all the things you're doing for the Ultraman Ohana, just getting our stories out there, and just also for people who might not be very familiar with it. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, that's what I aim to do with this podcast. So thanks.
Excellent. Well, you're doing well.
So I thought I would start off with a nice hard-hitting question for you right out of the gate.
Okay.
Since you're in Houston, who's your favorite Houston team? Astros, Rockets, Texans, Dynamo?
Yeah, well, I think the Astros are the only ones that can really defend the city. But out of all those sports, baseball is the one that's closest to my heart. I kind of grew up I did grow up in Venezuela. So one of the national sports there. And one of the most popular players of the Astros is a Venezuelan player, Jose Altuve. So
there you go.
Yeah, the Texans, I'm not too familiar with football, but for what I hear, they just keep making their fans sadder and sadder every year. So I thought I better don't get involved.
Yeah, don't waste your energy on that kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. That might hurt later on.
As I said, we met at Ultraman, Arizona, and we had a brief chance to chat and talk. I was telling you how I was in Houston a few years ago and at the Space Center, one of the highlights of my trip on that southern road trip that I did.
Yes.
What else is Houston known for? When people come to Houston, what are they gonna come and see? What's the city like there?
Yeah, Houston is a very interesting city. It's definitely not a touristic city. Doesn't have like many touristic destinations. So if you open a tourist guide, I don't think there will be many things. But living here, I think it's just. The southern hospitality is really a thing here. And you visit. I don't know how was your experience, but what I hear is most people feel really comfortable and they feel very welcome when they get here, and that has been my experience. So, but one of the things I like the most about Houston is the multiculturality, like how cosmopolitan the city is. It's for many decades, it's been an oil center in the world. Right. So there are a lot of multinationals. There have been a lot of executives here coming and going and leaving their mark in the city. same with, just a lot of immigration as well, and migration. And, every culture brings a little bit, they apport and they make something different. The biggest influence and the part that I enjoy the most is the food. Food in Houston is really interesting. You have a lot of varieties, and a lot of cultures have mixed and merged. There is a very big Vietnamese community in Houston, and now they're in the second or third generation. So we have seen, probably many TV shows that you might watch, they're starting to talk about it, which is just how the Cajun food was taken back to Vietnam,
right?
And now it kind of merged and transformed into something else, and now it's coming back to Houston. So now it's a lot of these restaurants are starting to pop up with
that's interesting,
with all kind of foods, and Vietnamese, Cajun, and and then of course you have all the traditional Tex-Mex, the really good Mexicans, the Italian, Spanish, Chinese. They're of course everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So Houston overall, at least in my experience, has been a very welcoming city, and it's very welcoming to any visitors. So I'm not paying by the city of Houston to promote it, but I have very, very, very good things to say about it.
Yeah. And I know when we had talked is like your plan was only to be in Houston for a couple of years. Tell me a little bit about how you came to Houston. It wasn't directly from Venezuela, if I understand correctly. What happened for you?
Yeah, that's correct. Well, I was born in Venezuela and I grew up in Venezuela. I'm from a mixed family. My father is Italian, my mother is Venezuelan. So I grew up in Venezuela within an Italian community, and always, in touch with that community and with the roots and with the family in Italy. So when I finished university, I went to England to learn English. And again, that was supposed to be 6 months, and then I was supposed to go back to Venezuela, but I didn't. So I went to Italy. Then I pursue another degree there, and then I met my now wife over there, and we settled in London. So we lived in London for 15 years.
And what was it that you were studying at that time? What is it that your degree is in?
Yes, well, I'm by training, I'm a mechanical engineer. I got that degree in Venezuela. And then when I went to Italy, I did an MBA, and I moved to London. I was working in consulting, and that was my beginning. And then I met my wife. Then I worked in consulting for a while, and then I changed careers. And my wife was always working on the consulting side, and around 2009. She was approached by a headhunter and proposed something interesting to her. He didn't disclose the company or the location, but he said it was an interesting offer, and that might take us out of London if we were interested. So she asked me what I thought, and I thought, well, why not? I mean, there is nothing wrong with talking and encouraging. And you have to knock on the door to see what's on the other side. Anyways, it ended up being an offer in Houston. At the time, it was very different from London, so it was a little bit of an adjustment.
Yeah, that'd be a culture shock for sure.
Yes, and weather, especially the weather. Like you move from a coldish, rainy city to a very sunny and warm.
Right.
But it was supposed to be maybe 3 years stint, and then we were supposed to go back to London. That was 12 years ago.
12 years ago.
Yeah.
and now going back to Venezuela is 20-something years ago.
Yes, exactly. Well, that door, closed a while ago, because once both of my parents passed away. And, once the roots are removed, it's really, I haven't been back, and I still have family, some relative, and a lot of friends. But without the roots there, is it's different.
Yeah, yeah. And so for your wife, Kristen, she had the job coming into Houston, but what about you? What were you doing as the tag-along partner?
Yes, well, that was an interesting period in in our life, because at the time I was full time in a project in London and Italy, in Milan, and I couldn't just disconnect immediately because it was a long-term project.
Okay. Yeah.
So we moved, and for the first 6 months, I was spending 2 weeks of the month there and 2 weeks here, and it sounded really exciting. But after the third trip, it lost all its enchantment.
Yeah.
It was like so it wasn't that attractive anymore. But I still enjoy it. I was really doing a very interesting project with very interesting people, and I love that.
Yeah.
But it was very difficult to just carry on after 6 or 12 months being here. So after that period, I stay home. So I was a stay-home dad for a couple of years.
Oh, excellent.
And that was, well, I think one of the biggest gifts of life, just being able to spend time with the kids, and especially at the time, at their ages, they were between 3 and 5.5, 6. So I have 2 girls,
right?
And those were the ages.
Throw in their names for us.
The oldest one is Mieko Carolina, and the youngest one is Emiko Francesca.
Yeah. So you got a little Japanese and Italian in there.
Yes. Yeah. So it's funny because when they were born, you just pick a name, but you never know how their personality is going to be like. And now seeing them 10, 15 years later, it's like, oh, well, maybe she's a little bit of an Emiko. She's a little bit of a Francesca. And,
that's excellent.
Yeah. So, that was interesting. For 2.5, almost 3 years, I was stay-home dad. And a little bit, that's when I found myself with some time to spare time to maybe maybe I can ride a bike and things
so
like that.
This is when the exercising started for you.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think for you, if I understand correctly, you kind of went through the progress. You started with the short tri, and then the longer ones, and Ironman, Ultraman, Epic 5. So maybe tell us a little bit about that first triathlon that you did then.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, I still remember it very well. It was a sprint triathlon.
Okay.
And it's just I did everything that a rookie can do. Like I had a new bicycle that I bought at my local bike shop, and I got the whole package for $500. So the bicycle, the shoes, the helmet, so you can imagine the quality of the bike.
Yeah.
But anyways, I bought it and I was riding my bike and I was quite enjoying it. And then I saw a triathlon in Austin. Austin is probably 2.5 hours, 3 hours away from Houston. And there was this triathlon called Cap Tex. It's the capital of Texas.
Okay.
And it's usually on Memorial Day, which is the last Sunday of May. And so I went there. We had to rack the bikes the day before. I wasn't too aware of that, but I read that I needed to be there the day before.
Yeah, that's good.
I went, and as I'm racking my bike, I said, I'm just going to walk by the water. And I touched the water and it felt really cold. And I thought, wow, maybe I need a wetsuit. I have never had one on, never bought one. So I went to the expo and I bought one. And
did they see you coming?
Probably. They said, that looks like a rookie. Maybe we can sell a wetsuit. Yeah. Anyway, so I bought it and I thought, okay, it feels good. I had no idea. I had no expectations. I didn't know what to expect in terms of feeling, whether I was going to swim faster, or I just knew I was going to be a little bit warmer. So I start to swim, and I can't. I have to also say that I had never taken lessons or or been on a pool. I've never been to a pool until then with intention of training. It was always like, okay, I'm just going to go and sunbathe or just go with some friends, but I hadn't trained for a race, or I hadn't trained like a swimming. So I start swimming and I feel like, wow, I cannot move my arms. This is getting really difficult. So just to make a long story very short, I end up swimming the whole 750 meters just like a doggy. It was horrible. And I was, I didn't know what happened. But later on, when we got home, I saw a picture that one of my kids took, and I saw myself standing on the dock to start, and I was all hunched down. So obviously I didn't put the wetsuit properly. Right. And I just had that long, like a long elastic band just pulling my shoulders down.
Oh, no.
Yes, I can laugh about it now, but when I found myself in the middle of the lake, even though it was a short swim, I was starting to be worried, to get worried.
Right. Yeah. Especially with not a lot of training. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, but I wasn't afraid. It was just the sensation of like I was almost unable to lift my arms.
Right.
And of course, I didn't have my wetsuit properly on. So, but anyway, so you learn and you move on.
Yeah. But still you persevere. Yeah.
Yes. It didn't kill me.
Yeah.
And so that was the very first triathlon. That was in May 2011. Mm-hmm. And a curious note is that I will be doing that triathlon again at the end of this month with some friends. So it will be 12 years. Yeah, I'm curious. Now I'm excited to go back, and I hope it's not the end of a cycle. Like, that's it. I'm going to make it clear. I'm not hanging my boots yet. So.
Yeah. Okay. Good to hear.
Yeah.
So despite having this, not so great swim at your local sprint triathlon, you do somehow manage to get inspired to go longer and get into Ironman. Is there a coach or an athlete, or what is it that had brought you forward into Ironman racing?
Yeah, that's definitely that event. Even though I can laugh about it and say like, oh, it didn't go well and I didn't swim. I got hooked immediately. Mm-hmm. Like I just the excitement of the race, the other participants. There was a pro athlete in particular that I didn't know much about, but I had read about him, and then I was standing next to him, and I thought like, wow, this is amazing. Like just almost like I can touch him. and that doesn't happen in golf or basketball or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it was a really, I don't know, it was a very nice of the sport, and it really, just hooked me in. So that was in May. Then I started to train for a 70.3. No, I did a couple of Olympics in the summer. Mm-hmm. So in June, July.
Yeah.
And then I thought maybe I can do a 70.3.
Right.
So I did my very first 70.3 was 70.3 Miami in 2011. And again, it just confirmed like, wow, this is really exciting. I can do it. And my swim went much better.
That's good.
Yep. And the bike was good as well. And I thought, wow, I really like this. And but until then, I hadn't, I think I subscribed to Triathlon Magazine, and then I was just doing one of the plans that came there.
Oh, yeah.
I had no coach. I had no direction. So then after that 70.3, I thought, wow, I think I really would love to do an Ironman.
Yeah.
I had watched that on TV when I was a kid. I don't know if it was the same in Canada, but when I was growing up in Venezuela, every Saturday morning they would have the, I don't remember the name, but it was like a world sports.
Wide World of Sports.
Wide World Sports, yeah. Sponsored by Gillette.
Yeah, we had it in Canada too.
Yeah, excellent. So, and I remember seeing the Ironman, and just to me that, there was like those guys up there on the the stratosphere
Yeah.
of elite. And so then all of a sudden finding myself like, wow, maybe this is something I can do. It felt like a really good challenge.
Mm.
So I approached a local group, triathlon club, and I trained with them from December to April when the Ironman happened. So my first Ironman was a local one as well. It was Ironman Texas. And so there was 5.5 months of training with a group. Very tricky as well now that I know what I know about coaching and training. And I mean, when you train on a group, somebody's getting overtrained and somebody's getting
undertrained. Yeah.
Undertrained. Yeah. So I'm not sure in which where I was, but I know that it was probably not the ideal training. But anyways, at least I was swimming, biking, and running a few days of the week, and the group I was training with was really, really good as well.
Excellent.
So completed my first Ironman Texas in 2012, and from there on, I think that I can say the rest is history. It was, just I did one, then I thought, well, maybe I can do it the following year. And so I did Ironman Texas in 2013. Then I said, maybe I can do another one. And I did Arizona. And then maybe I can do another one. And I did Texas again. And then I did Florida. And then one of the guys here in Houston who I was training with in my first training group, he mentioned to me a race. He said, I'm going to Florida to do this race called Ultraman. And I felt like, I think I heard of that, but I'm not sure. So as soon as I went back home, I checked it out and I said like, oh, wow, that race, that definitely, it sounds very interesting. Yeah. So I checked the race and
Did you go crew for that guy?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't because I met him just like a week before he was leaving.
Okay.
Well, I met him. I heard about that when he was all set up.
Right.
But I spoke with him again when he came back, and I asked him, and he said, "Yeah, that's Well, he just confirmed that it was an exciting race, and I might have wanted to do it."
And is this somebody that we would know that's been around a while, or is he a one and done guy?
I think he just did that one and then just focus on local races. And I think he's been racing ultra marathons.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so that was probably in January or February 2015. And then I set my goal to do it in 2016.
Okay.
So I thought, maybe I have a year to train. And then I did 3 Ironman that year. And in the meantime, I thought, well, I really need to get serious about this. And I started to work with a coach. I started to work with a coach a little bit earlier in 2013.
Who was your coach?
I approached the company, CTS, Carmichael Training Systems, based in Colorado Springs. And they assigned me a coach. First, her name was Rebecca. I don't remember her last name, but it was Rebecca. And then she moved out of there and she left the company, and they assigned me another coach, Lindsay Hyman. Nowadays she's Lindsay Golich. But we worked together for almost 6 years. And it was a great experience. Definitely, I learned a lot from her. Definitely, she helped me to get places that I thought I couldn't reach. And so that was probably how the progression into Ultraman happened. And she saw me through the whole, through the whole ladder of 70.3 full Ironman.
Right. Yeah.
2 Ironmans in a year, 3 Ironmans in a year.
Well, I know one of the Ironmans that you have listed on your resume is Austria. And
Yes.
for a lot of people in North America, they probably haven't gone to Austria to race. What was that race like?
Yes. Oh, that was an amazing race. It is. I mean, there are 2 or 3 races that everybody hears about in Europe, and one of them is a Challenge Roth. I haven't done it, but whenever you look at pictures or videos, it's it's just the whole town out there.
Yeah, I was able to go to that one with Lucy. So
okay, excellent.
Had
so
that experience.
Ironman Austria has a little bit of that. In the sense that there on the bike course there is a climb that everybody comes out and they almost make a tunnel for the cyclists. So that
nice.
That probably just brings your heart rate to a place you don't want to be, but but the experience is amazing. That is the atmosphere fantastic. Then the run course is a couple of loops and you go twice into the city center, and they have a very old bell that is hanging there. So I think that there is a charity, and obviously somebody sponsors that, but for every ring of the bell, this sponsor donates money. So just everybody keeps ringing the bell as they go by.
The athletes are ringing the bell.
The athletes, yes. It's in the middle of the run course.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so it's beautiful, and the lake where the race happens is beautiful as well. So it's just mountains, lake, and it's just beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, I could be talking about Penticton. But it's just Austria. Beautiful race, and it's always a sold out race. It's very popular.
Yeah, and I know another one that must be one of your favorites because you've listed it as doing it 3 times. Must be Mont Tremblant.
Correct. Yes, it's very, very similar.
Similar.
Yes. Yeah. Similar layout, similar environment, and the atmosphere is the same. Like have you been in Mont Tremblant, any of the races?
Yeah.
So you know how the whole town just embraces the race, and then during the course before the finish line and
running through the village.
Yes, running through the village, and really narrow, and all the bells and people screaming and shouting. It's amazing. Just really give me goosebumps. And so that's my favorite race. I've done it 3 times.
So you've been doing all these Ironmans. You've got your coach. You work into Ultraman. You do your first Ultraman Florida in 2016.
Correct.
Who was running the race in 2016?
I think that was the last year that
was that Trung Sui?
Yeah, Trung Sui. Yes.
Yeah.
They were the race directors that year, and I believe that was the last year.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you saw it evolve through the various race directors then along the way.
Yes, definitely, and I have been ever since. I mean, every race in one capacity or another, because I went back in 17 crewing, in 18 crewing, 19 crewing, 20 crewing, and then back on 2022 racing.
Right.
And then this year, 2023, I went for the first time as race staff. So
yeah.
So it's
well. Let's jump into that 2022 year. Let's skip over a few of those Ultraman races. I want to talk about your 2022 Ultraman year.
Yes.
Tell me about the meaning of El Plan, first of all. We had a lot of fun with that in Arizona this year when you gave it to Shane, and he's been running with it for a while now. But can you go back and tell us what is the meaning of El Plan?
Yes, definitely. And I remember clearly when El Plan was born. Yeah. Well, first of all, full credit and full disclosure. It doesn't belong to me. It's not my I'm a big Formula One fan. And towards the end of 2021, there's a Spanish driver, and he was about to switch teams, but he couldn't disclose it. But in the back of the car, well, first, you know that every single millimeter, every inch on those racing cars, I mean, it costs millions because that's all sponsorship real estate. So anyways, one of the races, the in the back, instead of any sponsors, they just wrote El Plan. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. And then he kind of mysteriously started to create a little bit of suspense and tease people with El Plan. So El Plan was his plan to come back and race in a better team. Right. Anyway, that's a little bit of the background. Then my El Plan, my version of El Plan, started in on the run on Ultraman, Florida. So I was running with one of my pacers, with Michelle, and just
Michelle
before
Williamson?
Michelle Williamson.
Yep.
Yeah. So my crew in Florida that year was Billy Rickards, and Michelle Williamson. So I was in good hands. And but I had El Plan. I had my plan written by my coach. And a little bit of story on how I got to work with my coach for that. That's the coach is Jeremy Howard for this. Yeah. The plan for that run, that section of the Ultraman, was to walk 10 minutes and run 1 mile for the first marathon, for the first half marathon. So the first 13 miles. And I had done a lot of training before, a lot of long walks, fast walks. So I knew it was, well, we both knew the pace was good. Mm-hmm. But on the race, there was a section, there was an out and back. And I started walking, and then I could see some of the other athletes coming back at me. And I got a look by 2 of them, like they just scanned me from top down, like just twice. Like, what is this guy doing here?
Yeah.
And then when Michelle joined me on the walk, I told her the story, like, wow, I mean, those two athletes just checked me out, like almost like writing me off. Yeah. And I told her, but what they don't know is that I have El Plan. So that's how it all started. And then we were walking, and 52 miles is a lot of walk.
Yeah.
So we were walking, and at some point I told her, like, oh, we should just put on the back of the van, right? We have El Plan.
Right.
And I mean, then El Plan, like within an hour, we just mentioned it like 10, 15 times. And at one point, I found that Billy joined me pacing. And then Michelle, the second time that Michelle came walking with me, I thought, like, you know what? I visualize it. I just know it's going to be a black T-shirt, and we're just going to make it with white letters and just said, "Trust El Plan." And that was just a joke, in the middle of, I don't know, mile 10 walking. And so anyways, the day went on, and I finished as it was planned.
As planned, yeah.
As planned, yeah, in 11 hours and 55 minutes. Because 3 weeks later, I had Ultraman Arizona to go. So the idea was to remain as fresh as possible. Since the goal was not to any time. The goal was to complete the 3 of them. So anyway, so we're driving home to the hotel at the end of the 3rd day. And then Michelle and Billy stopped in a Walmart, and I thought, well, I don't know, maybe we need something. Yeah. I was on my own world. I was quite tired, and anyway, so then the next day I wake up and just find 3 T-shirts in the living room. Just trust El Plan. So Michelle and Billy have just they bought the T-shirt, they bought some letters, and then they ironed them. Right. On top of them. So that was brilliant. That was and that's the beginning of that T-shirt.
Oh yeah.
So then Ultraman Arizona came 3 weeks later, and so the same people that I have seen in Florida,
right?
They were in Arizona, and they were asking, so what is this, a Plan 2 or? And they said, well, it's a Plan 2.0.
Yeah.
Jokingly, and then it just from there on, it just took a life on its own.
Yeah, excellent.
Then when Ultraman Canada came, it was El Plan 3.0.
Right.
And then Ultraman Hawaii, it was El Plan Cuatro.
Cuatro. Yeah. And were you already planning at that point to do all 4 races in that 2022 year?
Yes, definitely. The idea came to me probably, I don't know exactly when, but in September, beginning of September 2021, I was considering it. I mentioned it to my wife. I discussed it at home if it was, feasible, and if I would have their support, because it's obviously was a little bit of time that I needed to put aside for the training, for the races, for then time away from some family activities. Right. And so I had their blessing in a way. Right. There were a lot of question marks, and but with their nod, I wouldn't say their full blessing, but their nod.
What did Kristen get in return? A new car, or?
That was my mistake. It remained a question mark. So sometimes I feel like there was a blank check that we were signing, and I should have known better. But No. Anyways, but I mean, obviously, they and the kids have been very supportive as well. But so after that conversation, I made 2 calls, and the first one that was to Jeremy. And it was just a conversation. I said, Jeremy, I'm planning on doing this, and you know a little bit of me. I can, I can show you all my training files, but I just want to know if it's realistic, or if I'm delusional. Like, is this within? And I wasn't looking for approval as much as probably just looking for, yes, you can do it if you follow this.
Right.
So we had a conversation, and few weeks, probably a couple of weeks after, I made up my mind, and I thought, okay, that's something I will commit to. And I called Jeremy a second time. I say, would you be available to coach me, to coach me on this? I have been self-coached in the last 2.5 years, but this was a different thing. I mean, this was a different monster. Especially with those 2, Florida and Arizona, being almost back to back. And I thought, well, I really need somebody who knows how to treat that. And the thing that really convinced me, I said, it was like, okay, that's doable. Was what Jeremy told me, that he said, yeah, but you can do it if we consider those 4 events as the event. So it's going to be only one event. It will start in February, and you are not done until you finish, and after you cross the finish line in Hawaii.
Right.
And I thought, okay, that makes sense. And then he went into a little bit more details, but that's when he said, well, we're probably going to go really slow. And if your goal is to set a good time on each of them, probably, we need more time.
Right.
But so that's how we started to work on it. Probably mid-September 2021. And I had been doing a lot of training before that, so I had a
good base.
I would say a decent base.
Yeah.
And so Jeremy picked it up there and built me up.
And you had a code name for this venture as well.
Yes, that's true. I never disclosed it. I never put it anywhere out there until the end. But for me, it was Tetramando. the Tetramando, Tetra from 4.
Yes.
And Mando, as in, I mean, that's my nickname. A lot of my friends just call me Mando.
Mando, yeah.
Mando or Ultramando.
Was that before the Mandalorian stole it?
Way before. So I think that I should be looking for my rights there.
Exactly.
My royalties.
Yeah. So you've got Jeremy on board setting that up, and I think a lot of the listeners will know Jeremy, and he's been on the podcast back in season 2, episode 8. He came on. It was one of the ones that Jen was on as well. And
Okay.
so, yeah, you got him setting up your plan for you. Going through those first couple of races, because they are close together and back to back,
Yes.
were there any times in those races where you were concerned about El Plan? Like you were like, time cutoff was getting a little too close, or?
Yes, but not to be worried.
Okay.
I think, especially in Florida, I think the plan for Florida on the run was 4 half marathon. The first one was supposed to be the slowest one, and then I was going to build the second one, the third one, and aiming at the fourth one being the strongest one.
Right.
And it went okay, but there were a couple of moments in which the plan slipped a little bit. And on the second half marathon and the course, there were a little bit of hills, and I might have dropped the pace a little bit on those hills. So, and on this third half marathon, so between miles 26 and 39, there was a little bit of rain, and that goes through the clay road.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit slow on those areas. So when I started the fourth marathon, I was probably 10 minutes outside of the cut. So if I had continued that pace, I would have finished in 12:20 or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I had the whole crew. I had Billy and Michelle just pushing me, reminding me. And then I was also lucky that Jeremy was on the course. He was working as race staff, but he just finished his last post, which was I think around mile 39, and after that he was just picking up. I was the sweeper, so he was picking up all the signs and things like that. So I had him around, but I had to push a little bit. Like I definitely pushed, and that last half marathon was, it was almost like a standalone half marathon for me.
Yeah.
And I made it within the cut.
Yeah.
And I didn't pay much attention. I thought like, okay, I just had to sweat for that one. But then Jeremy, who reads all the statistics and knows all the numbers, he told me like, wow, that was amazing. That was the fourth fastest marathon, fourth half marathon.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's pretty good. At least I can go home with something.
Yeah. And I know by the time you got to Canada, you kind of had that dialed in, right? You were good on your pacing, and even though you were long on the course, again, nobody ever really got afraid because they understood El Plan, right?
Yes, that's true. And by then I had, days and days of long walks, like 6, 7, up to 8.5 hours walking and running. And I knew that I could be easily within the time. Of course, you can never be so confident because anything can happen on a race, a cramp, a stomach bug, or anything like that could derail you, especially when the time is so tight.
Right. Yeah.
But in terms of confidence that it was within my grasp, absolutely. Absolutely. So that was never a worry.
So the Tetramando here, you get through your Florida, your Arizona, your Canada, you're on to Hawaii. You've left, maybe one of the hardest swims, probably the hardest swim to the last race. And that was a really hard swim that year when you did it. There was a lot of people that got caught back in the currents. And what was going on in your mind as you were going through day one, and you knew you were well back of the swim where you should be, and what was ahead for you?
Yeah, I had a little bit of insight because I raced there in 2016 and 2018. 2016, unknown to me, was one of the best conditions ever. So all the times were good, including mine. So I thought like, wow, it's not that tough.
Yeah.
Then went back on 2018 and it was a completely different story. Like the last hour was horrible. I was throwing up. I was disoriented. So this year, I thought, okay, I'm going to go a little bit early. I went probably like 10 days before the race. And I was planning on doing a long swim, like swimming the whole course the Sunday before the race.
Oh, yeah.
And we got organized. We had a paddler. And so I went to swim that day, that Sunday, and the conditions were really hard, really, really tough. And at some point, probably around, 7K mark, I told the paddler, like, this is getting really hard and it's just a training day for me. So I really don't want to, it's like, I can't put the effort to finish, but it's a training race. It's a training day. So I don't want to overdo it. And I asked him, so what are our options here? Because we were in the middle of the ocean.
There's not a lot of places to go from there.
Yeah, exactly. So I was really lucky that she was a very good swimmer and a local. And she said, well, I offer her, what about if I get at the back of the kayak and I kick? And she's like, no, that's not a good idea. It makes it just so much more difficult to balance and paddle. So she said, but you can come on the kayak and I can swim. Luckily, she's an amazing swimmer and she enjoys swimming. So we just cut the course and went straight to the beach.
Okay.
So that gave me a little bit of confidence for the race, even though I didn't complete it, but I felt, okay, I had a good, it was solid 3 hours, three and something of swimming. And okay. Mm-hmm. So I went into the race feeling calm.
Right.
And I had a relatively good day. It was long, it was slow, but I came out of the water and I felt good. Like I wasn't exhausted, I wasn't dizzy, I didn't have any stomach issues, GI distress. Overall, I thought, wow, this was a very good swim.
And what was your time on the swim there?
Time was still, horrible, like a 4:50. But 4:50 coming out strong was good.
Yeah.
That I would have, that to me, that's better than maybe a 4:20 coming out completely, shredded and destroyed.
Yeah.
So I got on the bike. I think I told the crew, like, I just needed 1 minute to sit down after the swim. And I just sat down and then kept going and started the bike as planned. Mm-hmm. Relatively slow, conservative, because it's almost 2,000
uphill.
feet. Yeah, 2,000 feet just uphill for the first 3-4 miles. So it's very steep. And so I was fine. And then the day went by, and at some point I start to do the numbers, and I'm like, wow, this is getting really close. I have to keep the pace up, but I have to pick the pace a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I started to push a little bit. And towards the end, it started to, the last 20 miles are just going up the volcano from sea level to 4,000 feet. So
And were you getting rain that day?
The last hour, it was raining. Yeah. And it was raining. It was dark. There was a headwind. And for some reason, I didn't seem to have any power left on my legs. Like I was watching the clock. At some point, I thought, this is really close. I was pushing. I couldn't find any extra power. And so then it got dark, cold, windy, and anyways, just long story short.
You're doing the math in your head.
I was doing the math in my head.
And at some point, you got to be thinking, it's either close or I'm not going to make it.
Yes. And as the day went, as the minutes were ticking, at some point I thought, okay, I'm not going to make it. Like I had 10 miles left and I don't know, like half an hour, which in normal conditions would have been fine, but just the weather conditions and then going uphill, it was just and I didn't. I couldn't find any extra on the legs. And so anyway, then I knew the 12 hours was past. I was still a mile away. And the finish line on day one, it's on a driveway. So you just have to leave the highway to get into like a driveway. Yeah. And all I wanted to do was just make that turn and go straight to the car. Like I didn't want to see anybody. I just didn't want to. But to my surprise, I made that turn, and everybody was there waiting for me, like at least 30 people. And it was bittersweet because obviously I was disappointed to miss the cut. But just seeing everybody there and just everybody so supportive, so cheerful, I thought, well, I can't be upset about this. It's just, and it was one of those moments that I treasure now, and I often go back in my mind, and it's like, wow, that was a really nice day, despite everything. And of course, then everything settled, and everybody went back to the rooms, and I had something to eat, and I showered, and then the big question was what to do now.
Right. And how much did you miss it by? What was your time?
I think it was 12:08. So I missed it by 8 minutes, which is significant. It's not like just seconds or
right.
So, but as I said, I really, of course, when I came back home, I went through the files. I went through every inch of
where was
that course.
8 minutes on the course?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I went and I think I know where it went, but it's just learning.
Yeah. It wasn't, you weren't off course at any point during the race.
No,
right?
No, yeah. I wasn't. Yeah. I was on the course. I was just probably a little bit too conservative in the beginning. Yeah. I could have been, a little bit more aggressive. Yeah. Not even aggressive, just less conservative.
Right. And so what's that night like for you now? Who's your crew on this race? And what are I guess you're talking this through with them. What's going on?
Yes. My crew in Hawaii was Jeremy Howard, and Phil Coppernell. Awesome. The two of them were the three of us, we spent the whole week together, and we, it was a nice camaraderie before the race. And, they both have raced, they both know the athlete mindset. Right. So I was in really good hands. So the conversation that night was, I had two conversations going on. One was one with myself. Like, what do I do next? Like, okay, the Tetramando is not, it's not official anymore. Right. But everybody has been so great to me that maybe I can be out there and support the other athletes. Out of those 30 people, 10 probably were athletes or other athletes. Out of those 30 waiting for me at the end. Right. And I thought maybe I can just repay that with, I don't know, cheering for them on the course. And so one idea for me was, well, maybe I just, we crew for other people. We just go and cheer on them. And the interesting thing is I had two conversations that really shaped my mind. And one of them was a conversation with Billy Rickard, and he was crewing for Stephen Keller. But, we were staying in the same place. So we had a chat, and he told me something that really put things into perspective. And he told me, you are not defined by a jacket, meaning that whether I'm an official finisher or not, and getting a jacket, that doesn't define me. And that wouldn't define the year that I had. Yeah. The other conversation I had was with Jeremy, and he told me something very similar. But he said, like, listen, you might not be official finisher, but you can go out tomorrow and the day after, and you would have swum, ride and run every single mile.
You got those 515 kilometers in.
Yes,
for all
exactly.
four races.
And you will do you will hit every target and every goal you had.
Mhm.
And I thought, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So I went to bed with still not a clear mind, but all those things in my mind. And I wake up and I look at I was looking at some social media and I saw a post from Steven Keller, who I crew for him, and we have shared crew at different races. And I mean, it's one of the athletes that I admire the most. And he posted something about. I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly, but something like you have to show up in the arena, just show up. And I thought, well, I'm sure he didn't post that for me, but I'm gonna take it as that's the message from the universe.
Yeah.
And then, just as I was walking out of my room, I met I saw another athlete a good friend who crew for me a couple of years earlier, Howie Nordstrom.
Mhm.
And I told him, I'm debating because I maybe should be out there just helping other people. And he told me, again, paraphrasing, something like, well, the best way to encourage and support someone is being in the arena with them.
Right.
And I thought, well, okay, that's it. Maybe I just have to lace up and and show up. So yeah, then day two, I thought I made up my mind earlier on, okay, I'm going to race. I'm going to give it my best, and right. If I see anybody who needs help, but I will be devoted to.
Right.
That was my goal on day two, just be of service to other athletes. And just to close the cycle, Howie had a difficult day that day. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, he told me that he felt like stopping and not completing day two, but he thought, wow, Armando is out there racing, so I cannot stop.
Right.
And I felt like, wow.
So there you did help someone get to the finish.
Yes, exactly. And the thing is, you never know. You never know who you might help,
right,
or who is listening, who might get inspired. So yeah, I think that's my overall feeling and sentiment about Hawaii, and not being official finisher, but I set out to complete the 4 races, and even though the last one was not officially, I swam, rode, and ran every mile of the course, and I hope that inspires someone. And that was my feeling. I didn't articulate that, but interestingly,
that came across.
Interestingly enough, at the end of the award ceremony in Hawaii, I was talking to Shane Duffy, and what's next, and blah blah blah. And he, well, I will see you in Florida. And I was wearing the famous shirt, Trust El Plan. Yeah. And I took it off there and then in the middle of the award ceremony and just handing it to him. And I say, well, you might be the first one doing 4 officially. So you are the custodian of the dream.
Yeah.
And and that's how the T-shirt was born.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I just listening to your story, and I mean, maybe for some people that are listening, they don't know that you can finish an Ultraman race even if you miss a cutoff. You can come back the day 2, the day 3, and be a participant, because you're there to finish the distance, and that's what you did. You went out and finished the distance despite the letters beside your name for day 1, and I can tell that you've definitely inspired a lot of people, the people I've talked to since that race happened, and definitely Shane Duffy being one of them. He said he couldn't have probably done it without the inspiration he gets from thinking of you out there. And I mean, he was out there on that course with you racing and worrying about you, because he wasn't that much further ahead of you on day 1. And he was worried about himself, and he was worried about you. And and I think these are the stories that 515 that's where the Ohana comes in. It's just the way you've now passed it on to him, and I'm sure he'll pass it on to someone else. And he's probably inspired some other people now by completing those 4. And in a couple of days, he's fingers crossed, going to be finishing definitely. 6 in 12 months, because we're recording this just before the weekend of the Australia. So that's a great story. And I think it's going to go down as one of the historical stories of Ultraman racing. And you should be so proud of it that you did stick it out. And I don't know if you've picked out the name of your book for like when you write your book, but 8 minutes has got to be the title. Come on.
Well, I didn't want to announce it, but definitely there has been some writing because it's been it fell. It was something was stuck in my chest, and that was a good way to get it out.
Yeah.
But also, a lot of people have encouraged me to write just my story. And sometimes it's difficult because I don't think I want to, I don't want to write something to say, oh, look at me, this is, right. I'm great. You attempt something great, and then somebody else comes and doubles that.
Yeah.
And but I think the spirit is what is there. And
oh, exactly, 100%.
Yeah, so there is some writing, something has happened, and there is no timeline yet, and no definitive title, but but there, it's work in progress.
Oh, excellent! That's good to hear. I didn't know that, by the way. I was just
okay. Yeah, that's yeah. Well, I guess that now I'm committing myself to finish it.
That's right. It's public now.
Yeah. Before I was like, oh, okay, I just, it's just for me, maybe a little bit of a memoir, something for the kids and to read later on. And but yeah, I think if there is some interest there, maybe I will have to publish it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there'll definitely be interest. 100%. Yeah.
Maybe we should run a poll.
All right, we'll do it. We'll run a poll.
Good.
I said in the beginning that you are someone who lives the AOK, the Aloha, Ohana, Kokua, and I think your story that you just described, it really, it embodies that. Are there other parts of living AOK that you want to share with us? Like what has it gone out into your bigger life by being a part of this family that it reaches out into other areas of your life?
Yeah, there is so much to say, and I think that there are a lot of the things that I will say that probably might sound a little bit like a cliches, but for me they are imprinted in my heart and in my in my DNA now, and just how I behave day to day. But definitely, you cannot go to an Ultraman, whether racing or crewing or helping, and not be touched by the Ohana,
mm-hmm.
by the atmosphere and what it's created there. So, yeah, I have raced, I have crewed many times, and to me, that's like it's one of the best ways of therapy, because being in such an environment, it's very intense. Time is compressed, a lot of intensity, emotions, and
mm-hmm.
logistics, and everything. If you're crewing, well, you were crewing recently, so that there are a lot of things happening that you can't miss, and. But just the spirit, like that space of we are here for each other. We're here to help each other. We want you to succeed. I'm here for my own goals, but if I need to stop and help someone, that help will be way much more rewarding than any time I could set. So I always try to bring that or to keep that present in when I'm not at the race, when I'm outside the Ohana.
Yeah.
And I think that, that's anytime I go back is like a reaffirming and reassuring that, yes, that is a way of living. And that is, recently one of my athletes was, he went into an adventure, not sports related, but he went on to climbing, did some climbing, and he sent me a note when he finished, like, wow, thank you so much. I'm really grateful for this. And I told him, we've been working together for 4.5 years now. And he's one of those athletes that have a long-term approach to things. And I told him, like, this is the difference between training for a race and training for a lifestyle. Because if you train for a lifestyle, then, you open the doors for all of these adventures.
Right.
And with the Ohana, it's a little bit similar. It's just, it's a lifestyle. It is, we go to races together, but I have been outside the Ultraman world doing things with the Ohana. Yeah. And, it's, what it creates, it's magical.
Yeah. And now you've just touched on something there that I would like to discuss a little bit more too. Is you're saying an athlete of yours, you do some coaching, and not just athletic coaching. Like, tell us a little bit about your background in your coaching business, and it's now, I understand, growing into a athletic coaching business as well. So tell us a little bit about those things that you do.
Yes, I do. And I have been doing executive coaching and leadership development coaching for a long time.
Now, this is the same thing that Chad Bentley does as well, right?
I think so. We haven't spoken recently, but watching on social media what he's doing, and it looks like. Yes. So I do a lot of that. I work I go in companies and work with executive, do a lot of work on emotional intelligence, how to develop leadership and prepare leaders for their challenges. Right. That on one hand. On the other hand, I have been studying and prepared to be a sports coach. So triathlon, cycling, and running. So I have two coaching practices that are completely different. They both share the word coach and coaching, right? But they are different. They are different, but this is the ultimate goal for me, is just bring the two of them together, which is just do more of a wellness coaching, just a lifestyle that it touches deep in both the mindset and the workouts. Like, how do you prepare your body? What's the physiology? Right. What do we need to manipulate there to get some results? But together with the mindset, like, okay, what are your beliefs? What do you believe is possible? What do you think you can achieve? What are the challenges? How can we get around those challenges?
And one of the things that you do as well, that I know Chad mentioned, because he was like one of my first guests in episode 1 with Steve King, and he taught me about the neuro-linguistic programming. Now, that something that you do as well?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that, just to refresh our memory as to what that is about, because that seems to delve into both of your coaching streams.
Yes, definitely. Neuro-linguistic programming is basically what happens in the nervous system and how we are programmed through words, through experiences, through repetition of things. And then it's like all those things make like a track on an old record. And then there are techniques. It's a science, so it's all well backed up. And so same way that you get to build those tracks on the record, you can also delete them and rewrite new ones. So it has a lot of psychology behind that. And it's just, a lot of understanding what's going on in the mind of a person, of an athlete or an executive, and what is replicable, what you can model again. Right. And also you can watch other people, other stars or masters, and then you can deconstruct what they do and just transfer those skills or just model them.
Right.
And there are also different levels of training. Like I think the entry level is practitioner, then master practitioner, then trainer, then master trainer. And I definitely is one of the heaviest tools in my toolbox. One of the tools that I use the most. But I usually don't call it, NLP or
Right.
Hey, look, I'm going to use this tool with you. We just a lot of those things just become very, very natural and very second nature to use with other skills in coaching. But one of the biggest applications of NLP in sports is there is a big guy, a big coach guru like that claims to have worked with with top golfers and tennis players, and he's used NLP to get them through some slumps or difficult points. So sometimes
you should send his number to the Texans.
Yes. Yeah, well, the Texans. There might be a future. I think they got a good pick on this on the draft last week.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no. That's good. Yeah, so NLP just works perfectly into. I would say that's probably the mind side of the coaching, of the athletic coaching, and that definitely helps to put a lot of things into perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is this your full-time thing now? Do you do any engineering consulting anymore, or is this just what you're doing for your livelihood?
Yeah, this is my full-time activity right now. Just coaching, doing executive coaching and an athletic coach.
Yeah. Now, if people are looking to get some advice in these areas, whether it's executive coaching or the triathlon coaching, do you currently have a website going? Do you have a way for people to reach out to you? And what kind of clients do you want to take on? And are you taking any on?
Yeah, so far I've built my practice just by word of mouth, just recommendations, and until now has been just the right numbers, like the right balance of clients and effort, the time that I wanted to put into it. The last year has been and this year is going to be more of a crossroads, as in I'm deciding how to grow the business now that I have much more clarity in which direction to go. So the best way to get in touch with me at the moment is just through my Instagram or Facebook, just direct messaging. Instagram is Armellini or Ultramando TX, and Facebook the same. For now, website is coming up, but it's a little bit of clarity as in what the next directions are.
Okay.
But yeah, just just search me out and direct message, and I reply almost immediately. And if there's anybody out there that I can help, I'll just be sure that I'll be reaching out. I'm more than willing to help.
Good to know. And that's obviously, has come throughout this conversation as to that's the type of person you are. And I know that this particular year you've basically taken off of racing yourself, and you've said you're going to be doing more giving back to the community and crewing and working races and stuff like that. So what do you got coming up in the next little while? Do you have any crewing coming up, or are you getting back into racing, or where's your...
Yeah, this year, yes. This year I'm crewing for my family. I'm immediately, and we're spending the summer in Europe. So I'm taking my wife and I are taking my two kids to Europe. So we're going to spend 2 months in Italy and Spain. And so they will have almost my full attention. With the exception of a few days at the beginning of our trip that I put a training camp together for some of my athletes.
Okay.
So we'll be doing 5 days of training in Italy.
Oh,
and
nice.
After that, I will be crewing for my family, making sure that we spend a good time. together. My oldest daughter is a junior this year. So we think this is probably going to be one of the last summers that we will be going out on holidays all
Right.
together without complaining on their side.
Before she has her own holidays in life. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, the focus for this summer is family.
Yeah.
Later on in the year, I'm open to, if any athlete out there is, I already had some conversation of an athlete maybe needing a hand in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
That depends whether I get the clear from my from my board.
Yeah.
From the boss, which it's fine. Usually, if we don't have any plans, they're very supportive of that. And so and still helping on my local races and yeah, that's my focus for this year.
Well, listen, I really appreciate you giving me so much time today, and it's nice catching up with you again and seeing you again after meeting you in Arizona finally. And all the best to you and your family for the summer, and enjoy that trip together and your training camp out there. And did your daughter win the video contest that I voted in?
Oh yeah, no, she didn't. She didn't win, but she was super happy. Just because she made it to the final 15,
yeah,
I think out of 1,800, that she was not expecting that at all.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so it was a challenging challenge. Yeah, so she didn't win, but she's very happy, and I hope that planted a seed on her as well. Like that a lot of things are possible.
Yeah. Well,
that just making the effort.
But hey, like I said right off the top of this one, you obviously live those values. You're giving them to your own children and inspiring a lot of people in your family, in your Ohana, within the Ultraman community, and even further out. It sounds like so. Good on you. It's great to know you, and I can't wait till the next time we cross paths.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Larry, for having me. And again, thanks for all you are doing, and definitely I look forward to the next time we meet.
All right. Thanks, man.
Hey, if you liked what you heard today, please tell a friend and be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We'd appreciate it if you'd rate and review the show while you're there. Drop the names of the people you think we should interview, and we'll get in touch with them and make that happen. Thank you for listening to 515, the Ultra Podcast, a production of 55 Enterprises. Now really, go subscribe now before you forget.